And welcome back to Live Now from Fox as we are talking about Juneteenth. It's an important holiday for many people across the country. And also we're talking about former leaders in the black community and some of their history and the amazing things that they've done as well. So that leads me to bring in Dr. Nathaniel Glover. He's the author of Striving for Justice, a Black Sheriff in the Deep South. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach. Glad to be here.
Of course, glad to have you. Well, let's talk about your book. Tell me what it's about and what really inspired you to write it.
Well, Zach, actually, I've been resisting writing a book for some time now because I've had such a, I'm going to say, an adventurous life. And of course, people have been telling me I need to write about it. And I finally decided to in my late years in life. So now I'm writing about my time as sheriff, my time as president of Edward Waters University, my alma mater. And it's a significant time, but my background is what's so significant. You know, actually, African American, born in poverty, and ended up being the first African American sheriff elected in the state of Florida in more than 100 years, and that's pretty significant. And so I've had some traumatic times in my life that actually got me involved in law enforcement. Actually, I had a situation in Jacksonville where I was chased out of Jacksonville downtown area by Ku Klux Klan members, and was traumatized to the extent that I had to run to save my life. And of course, it put me in a position where I did say at that time, because in my neighborhood, in the ghetto, you didn't run away from a fight. And having ran, it was quite embarrassing to me. So I made the promise to myself at that particular time, I would never run away from another fight, no matter what the situation is, even if it cost me my life. And it set the tone for a kind of a real career in law enforcement. So I ended up working my way through the ranks of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and later being elected the first African American sheriff in the state of Florida since the Reconstruction era.
And some of those experiences that you had, you mentioned being chased by the KKK. How did some of those experiences shape you as a person? I mean, do you remember those, how do they shape you? Let's stick with that.
Well, they shape you in the sense that you can work your way through crisis. And when I was a law enforcement officer, I did some things that brought attention to myself as a law enforcement officer. And of course, that puts me in the position of being eventually working my way up the rank ladder and being a historic sheriff in the state of Florida. Just to go back to a few of them, I remember going into a burning building and pulling a man out of the building, and no one would go in but me. Ended up in the hospital myself, smoke inhalation. Those are the kind of things that distinguish me from other officers. And having done that, I was the recipient of Police Officer of the Year by 4 different organizations. And, you know, so that set the tone for recognition. I call it find a way in your profession to raise your head above your peers. And if you do that, then people will notice you. And if people notice you and are talking about you, then that is the thing that will distinguish you. So I'm writing about that and hoping that someone else benefit from that. And incidentally, all of the proceeds from Striving for Justice will go to a college scholarship fund for low-income kids who would not be able to go to college because of money.
And somebody could pick that book up. It also goes to a good cause, like you were mentioning. They could learn about your history, which of course is very impressive history. And I've heard you're also in the Florida Law Enforcement Hall of Fame. Is that correct as well?
In the Florida Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, that's a distinction for law enforcement officers here in Jacksonville, which certainly meet the requirement of having to raise your head above your class and your peer class. And incidentally, I was also distinguished myself by being awarded the Great Floridian Award, which was awarded to me by Governor Rick Scott. And that's a great honor as well.
And I wanted to ask you about this also, because of course today is Juneteenth. What does that holiday mean to you and to, I guess, everyone?
Well, I can tell you what it means to me is talking about Axe Handle Saturday when I was chased out of downtown Jacksonville. And it was during a sit-in demonstration where some young people had come to Jacksonville and from the youth NAACP, and they were doing sit-in demonstrations trying to integrate some lunch counters in the downtown area. And of course, they were attacked by white supremacists and Ku Klux Klansmen and chased out of downtown. Now, they call it Axe Handle Saturday because when the white supremacists came to town, they were all issued axe handles, brand new axe handles that they had purchased from some store, and they used those to intimidate and, of course, attack some of the sit-in demonstrators. I just happened to be an individual who was working on a part-time job on Saturday at cafeteria, Morrison Cafeteria. And of course, after I got off work, they had confronted the demonstrators, and I walked into that mob. And then that's when they surrounded me and chased me out of town. And the parallel here is that the newspaper did not cover the incident in its entirety. And of course, the newspaper later apologized for not having done that. But I think it was typical in the South at that time to undercover, I guess in some instances, not even cover incidents of racial confrontation during that time.
Well, very interesting background you have, a lot of impressive accolades certainly, and you've been through quite a bit as well. We appreciate you sharing all of that with us today, and that's really all the questions I had for you. But of course, like I do with everybody, before we disconnect, I want to turn things back over to you. Is there anything you want to add on this topic or on your history on Juneteenth that I didn't ask you about that may have glazed over? It happens sometimes.
Well, Juneteenth was a similar situation. You had the Civil War ended April 9th, 1865. And of course, the people in Texas, they were not freed. The slaves in Texas were not freed until June 10th, 1865. And obviously, there was some conspiracy there to delay the freeing of the slave. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. But of course, the war was still going on, and the Confederate States certainly was not going to honor that since they had seceded from the Union. But then Robert E. Lee surrendered in 1865, April 9th. And yet the people in Texas were not actually freed until 2 months and 10 days later, June 10th, 1865. And that was because, it was my understanding, because there was a deliberate delay. They were not notified that they were free. And some even said that they had another crop to get in. So they didn't do that. So it was undercoverage. by the newspaper and some conspiracy by the powers to be, so to speak. And that's what delayed the Juneteenth. That's why we're celebrating Juneteenth. It's a significant day in this country.
A very significant day and a very important day indeed. Dr. Nathaniel Glover, author of Striving for Justice, a Black Sheriff in the Deep South. Thank you so much for joining us, sharing your experiences and just everything. Everybody should probably go pick up that book. You said it goes to a good cause. What do the proceeds go to again?
It goes to So They Will Shine. It's at a Florida State College here in Jacksonville, and it will pay for college education for young people who have the ability to and the desire to go to college but do not have funds to do so. So all of the proceeds will go to fund those scholarships.
And a very good cause there. All right, Dr. Glover, thank you so much. You take care. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.